how are you?
Hello, I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. I'm very good. Ready for yet another surprise conversation. So what would you like to chat about today?
Right, so we are all about empowering women to see that they have choice, aren't we? And I feel like I have a very real example of this from the past week that I just wanted to have a chat about. For a bit of a backstory, last year we went through quite a tough time. We had our two beautiful black Labradors, Denzel and Welly, stolen. And it was the worst 2.5 days of our lives. Like, it threw us into emotional turmoil. And we found them thanks to the power of social media, thanks to Cheshire Police, and just getting it out there as best that we could. And it was actually a family who had taken them. It was a man, a son and wife. And he went to prison for 6 months, which was a very big thing for for pet theft. And then, that happened. Obviously, our dog, Welly, really, really suffered from that incident, which we put down to stress. Unfortunately, there isn't enough information, enough research out there in terms of dogs and stress to correlate the two, but he was perfectly healthy before he was taken, and he came back and the vet said he wouldn't have lasted another hour in the house, and his body was overcome in fluid. And we lost him in January. And it was just the hardest year, but the year that I'm so, so glad that I learned through all of it, because I really would not be the person I am now. And it makes me even more passionate about this stuff, because you can go through the worst of times, but my goodness, can you make it the best of times? Because he drives me. Even I say, what would Welly do? He'd keep on going. And I wanted to just talk about this again today, because I found out that the guy who took them has been reported as missing to the police, and it hit me hard last week, because the inner Charlotte in me has a lot of compassion for him, no matter what he has done. And that was my initial reaction. And then I was hit with anger, and then I was hit with all the other emotions and different things. And this isn't to talk about him. It really isn't. It's to talk about my choices in these things. Because just to add a little light-hearted note onto that, the very next day after finding out about that, our little hamster went missing. I was like, really?
The wondrous Wiggles on her adventures.
My goodness me. Yes. So little Houdini escaped out of the top of her cage and spent a good few days behind all of the kitchen cupboards. And so the point that I wanted to kind of, I suppose, unearth for me and actually talk about this was to say, like, those two incidences could have really sent me under, because even Wiggles going missing, this sounds so irrational, but in my head it was rational. Like, I'd let her down. We were in the same spot where I'd let another animal, like, down, that she'd gone. And obviously coupled with that news on the Monday that I don't know what to do with, really. Obviously it's nothing to do with us, and I've had to disconnect from that. I'll probably never know what happens, and I have had to actively choose to not associate myself with it. But those two things I had to choose as another lesson from the universe to just say, right, Charlotte, like, I don't know, you can just... What I want to say is those two things would have, before this, sent me to a different place. I would have been in fear. I would have been in doubting myself. I would have been in being very, very tough on myself. And instead, I took a step back and I thought, you know what, this has come to me to realise I couldn't have stopped Wiggles getting out of that cage that night. I really couldn't. It was all closed, and I know that for a fact. It was all... And she escaped. That was out of my control. But what was in my control was waking up the next day and knowing that, like, it's okay. And I pushed quite a few comfort zones to even talk about it last week, because me would have just hidden away and not spoken about it. So yeah, sorry, feel like I've just...
No, this is the you obviously you've given the context and for our listeners to understand what you've been through, and then obviously what happened last week. And firstly, all those different things that you felt with these different triggers, it's all okay.
Yeah.
It's all okay to feel all those feelings. And obviously I know you spoke to me about this at the time when it happened last week, and they are triggers, and that's what triggers do to us. They take us back to a place of those similar feelings. Mm-hmm. And I think you may have already answered this question in what you've just said, but and by the way, what you've done is huge. Identifying that historically, being triggered, you would have not dealt with the situation in the best way you possibly could. Mm-hmm. However, now, for reasons we'll unpick, and doing things you have done, which we'll unpick, you have been triggered but done something different. So I think you have answered this, but just for clarity, what has Charlotte, that is now on this personal growth journey, that understands she has a choice, doing differently to what Charlotte, that if she hadn't stepped into this personal growth journey, would have done differently? What's the, just for clarity there, what is it you're doing differently?
Okay, so previously I would have been very much up in my head, and I probably you wouldn't have seen it externally. I would have just carried on with day-to-day life, but in my head, would have been a different story. I would have been overthinking this like for weeks, if not months, this situation, and not talking about it, and it just adding to these bad feelings. And the Charlotte that dealt with this time round knew to grab her journal and go, to even acknowledge to myself that my first reaction was, no matter what he's done, it's a man missing, and I don't like that. Like, to acknowledge myself as the person that felt that feeling first, and to give myself the credit for that. I've since realised and had to disconnect, because I could have easily got myself involved where I didn't need to be, and it isn't I don't know this man. I don't know the situation. I don't know anything, and I don't want to comment on it. But I got my journal out, and I went through that anger, and like you say, it's recognising that they were triggers for me. And I think in just knowing that they are triggers, and knowing what feelings are probably going to come up, like I knew the anger and the frustration that I felt after the boys, had even come back, and I went through those feelings. I knew they were going to come. And so I would grab my journal whenever I felt them bubbling up, rather than taking it out on everybody else, because I was getting impatient because I had all this going on in my head. And I just let it out on the page. And I was like, I just don't know what to... And I even wrote, I just don't know what to do with this information. I don't need this information. And I probably will never find out what happens or get closure on this situation in reality. And it meant that I could distance it. And then, just to follow up with little Wiggles, I expressed in my journal, Charlotte, you did everything you could. I mean, I even knew she was having a wild one that night because I put an extra tie on the other part of her cage. It's like, I'm not trusting you tonight, little miss. Like, at all. Like, she was just having a wild one. So I went back to affirmations as well, and I was like, I am fine. I am fine. I'm doing the best that I can with what situation I have right now. I am in control of how I'm feeling right now, and I choose to be kinder to myself. And I just chose to, for me, this is not what it's going to look like for everyone, but I had to talk about it to be like, it's okay to talk about it. We all make mistakes in life. And I think I just struggled to recognise that it was just something that happened. It wasn't on me.
Yeah. I think I'm itching to say something here. That is incredible. That process you've been through with both of those situations back to back last week. On the making a mistake thing, I think we're setting ourselves unrealistic expectations if we think we don't make mistakes. Yeah. Because we do. Mm-hmm. So the quicker we get comfortable with making mistakes, the better we'll be. Yeah. But so in answer to the question that I asked you, what is it that Charlotte's that's going on this growth journey does differently now? What I am hearing with crystal clarity is choice. So you were up in your head, you were overthinking, which we can all relate to. Mm-hmm. And vocalizing that it wasn't even external, it was all internal. Hands up, like, I get that. If I'm into overthinking and overwhelmed and up in my head, I'm almost like just head down and just getting on, but it's all up here, and it's so foggy, and it's so messy, and it's so loud, and it's so noisy, and it's just really not a nice space to be in. Mm-hmm. So you chose to not carry on with that. And what was your outlet? What was your tool? What was your technique? You took those thoughts and those things out of your head, so you created space between them. Yeah. And you put them on paper, you turn them into words, and you recognise them, which means when we recognise something, we can do something with a thing. Mm-hmm. And you just created this space, you detached them. They didn't define you. They weren't a part of you. They were thoughts and feelings that were completely justified and completely okay, but you pop them onto paper to just relieve yourself of that, and so that you could start to work with them. And this is, I know we talk about journaling a lot, but there is so much impact and so much benefit from journaling, isn't there? So that was the first choice.
Yeah. It really is. The second choice. Sorry, you go.
Delay. Sorry, the delay. The second choice was you were thinking about this guy and starting to want to know the ins and outs and this, that, and the other, and the details. The second choice you made was to not think like that anymore and to disconnect. Rather than be fully connected with the situation and need to be involved, you chose to disconnect. So that was your second choice. Yeah. And then with Wiggles, you made a choice again. You chose not to beat yourself up. You chose to give yourself a break and understand that you made mistakes, and we make mistakes, and that you did all that you could, and that these things just happen. So there's these 3 moments of choice that in doing that, in just giving yourself the moment between the trigger and the response, because there is space in between that. Yeah. You stepped into that space and you made a choice. And the events which you can't control happened. The response which you can control, which was your choice, is what you did control. And what did it deliver? A different, better outcome. Yeah. And
it really did. It really, really did. And in those choices, I feel like I got clear on those choices in my journal, and then I had to keep practicing those choices because there was moments, to take the middle one, of before I did disconnect, I was getting my phone out and I was scrolling trying to find out what on earth was going on, like time and time again, and it was cutting that cycle as quickly as possible to go, no. stop doing it, Charlotte. You don't need to know, and you really don't. And yeah, thank you for the clarity on that, because that was even good clarity for me, actually, listening to that back. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Good old choice. And it is there. It's not easy, but it
takes
is
practice.
Yeah.
It takes practice. It does. But like anything we do in life, we practice it, we get better at it. But we've got to be prepared to put the effort in. If you want something different, you've got to be prepared to do something different, because nothing changes if nothing changes. And a change can come in a different choice. And it might not be the choice that you might do again, but it's different, and you're going to get a different result. And then it's stepping into a better choice. I know what my better choices are.
Yeah.
A McDonald's, or I don't know, scrambled egg on toast, or stir fry. Yeah, you know, I mean, like, there is a choice there. Nobody is pinning me down and shoving a fillet of fish in my mouth. That's a weird vision for you. Oh dear. But you know, I have a choice, and sometimes it's easier. Oh, sorry. Sometimes it's harder to flex that choice muscle, but it's then owning that decision. Like on Monday, I did, funnily enough, have a McDonald's for lunch, but I owned it, and I was like, yeah, I'm having a McDonald's, and I'm not going to beat myself up about it, because I had a choice here. And is it gonna make me feel as energized as, you know, not having one and choosing something different would? Am I going to probably be, you know, not giving nourishing my body in the best way I can? No, I'm not, but it's a choice. And,
and you're going to enjoy it and not feel bad about it.
And I think
that's the thing, isn't it? Like, we don't always get the choices right, but whenever we do, it's feeling really, really proud of those choices. And when you start to feel that pride from within on the choices that you're making, and you're making them out of your best interest, best interest, that's what, that makes sense, doesn't it? Didn't sound right in my head then. It builds momentum, and you're starting to look after yourself more, and you can forgive yourself for the moments where you just go, no, do you know what, I'm going to do this today, I'm going to fully enjoy that, what is it, fillet of fish?
Fillet of fish. Everybody that's a McDonald's lover are like, why are you wasting calories on a fillet of fish? Like, if you're going to go McDonald's, have a hamburger.
I was going to say, that kind of sounds like a very healthy version of McDonald's. See, I'm veggie burger. I'm veggie burger.
Oh yeah. See, I only ever have fillet of fish burgers, or I don't like the hamburgers. So that's another podcast. Clearly, let's talk about what McDonald's were like. So how do you feel after having this conversation? And is there anything else you'd like to discuss, or does it feel good to just kind of get that clarity?
Yeah, I think it's been important that I have had this conversation, and I feel lighter. I feel like I could really just take a moment today and just be proud of those choices, and use that pride, like I say, to then go and make, you know, anything else that happens. And we talk about, don't we, in the club, like, it's about equipping ourselves for these tough challenges that come with life. Like, you know, we're always going to have challenges in life, and we can't change them, but we can equip ourselves, we can be kinder to ourselves, and we can grow through the hardest of times, no matter how hard that is. And when we do it, and obviously I was incredibly lucky that with what happened last year, this community came together and built me up in all those moments where I could have literally just, you know, hidden myself away and not spoken about anything. And I think having that support network, having those kind messages in my inbox every single day was huge. It really, really was. And I've said it many a times. I feel like I've spent a year saying thank you, because I genuinely mean it. Like, and this is what we've got to be for each other. If you can show that kindness and receive that kindness, because it's about both as well, isn't it? And just, let's just think better, feel better, and live better together.
Absolutely. It is incredible what we can do. We come together, and that is what we do at TAGC. We equip, we empower, and we elevate, and just some really beautiful things that are happening in in our club, which just warms my heart. Lovely
Yes.
fuzzy feelings. So
Yeah.
thank you for having that conversation today with
you.
me. And what takeaway do we have from this then? I think I just want to shout choice
Yes.
as the takeaway.
Yeah, I think it is, isn't it? It's make a different choice today. Whether that's literally you catch yourself saying a mean word to yourself and you reframe it. So if you say to yourself, what do we say?
I'm not enough.
I'm not enough. Yeah. Say I am enough. I really am enough. And if you take it one step further, look in the mirror as you say it, because that is so effective. And it can sound and feel silly. Embrace that silliness, because on the other side of it is a much better life. Brilliant.
And you are enough. Know that you are enough. Whoever's listening, you are enough, and we believe in you, and we are absolutely here for you. And thank you for listening.
We really are. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Speak to you
Take
soon.
care. Bye.
Bye.